familiar, and then classically centered too. There's several well-known pieces, jazz standards, and even if they're not jazz standards, things that people would know, like we're doing Anything to Georgia, we're doing a well-known jazz standard called Out of Nowhere, also Just Friends, which would be in the same boat as Out of Nowhere, Sweet Georgia Brown, which is, if you don't know the title, it's the same song as the Harlem Globetrotters theme, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And then the two pieces that I composed have been arranged by a great arranger in Seattle by the name of David Marriott Jr. And of course the tune Body and Soul, which is, I think the program is naming the concert that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's also a well-known jazz ballad. The ones that we're doing for this program, one is on the recent KNKX studio session. It's called Cookie Happy Man, and so that's more of almost like a hip hop
Okay.
style, I would say. It's very close to that rhythmically. And then the other one is a piece called Hourglass, and both of those have been recorded on the KNKX studio sessions on separate sessions. There's a really great quote that I try and keep near and dear to my heart at all times. It's I heard it's from Cannonball Adderley. He says, "I play 50% of what the audience wants to hear and 50% of what I think they need to hear." Because you have listeners now in 2019 that want to hear something from the 1940s or 50s all the way up to like something that's current day. It's like having a conversation. You could memorize a speech, but like you and I, we've never had this conversation before, but we know the English language and vocabulary, and we have to ask questions and respond in kind based on what the subject matter is that we're talking about. And jazz or music as a whole, in general, if you're dealing with improvisation, functions the same way. It's give and a take, and you have to be willing to realize what the conversation is about and what best suits that. And even that takes time, you know, as people, myself included, I'm keenly aware of this, is over time you learn how to pare things down and say things that are succinct and to the point, and you trip over your tongue, and playing works the same way. You just have to rebound and keep going with the conversation.
Mm-hmm. And keep it relevant.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And is the audience a relevant collaborator? Can you get something from the audience?
Definitely. And again, this is all my own experience. You know, I've been a musician since the late 90s is when I started performing. So a good chunk of my lifetime, and I play a lot, 3 to 5 nights a week, every single week, in concert halls, in bars, clubs, festivals, you name it, lots of different types of scenarios. And I certainly think, you know, when there is an audience there that's invested in what you're doing and enjoying it or not enjoying it, all those things definitely come into the music. I mean, we as musicians, when we're on the stage playing in real time and having these musical conversations, that becomes, it's another part of the performance. I think jazz, you have that give and the take with that style of music, the dialogue of improvisation, and that is a huge thing. It's generational, it's regional. You might have, you know, we do these exchanges with our nonprofit with other countries, so we go to other countries and we not be able to have the same communication with words with other musicians, but as soon as we start playing, we can recognize it right away. And you can't deny the fact that, you know, if you grew up in Japan, all of that folk music that you heard of, it's part of you whether you accept it or not. Same thing growing up here in Tacoma, Washington. You want to find out where we're playing around the area, on my regular website is www.kareemcandy.com. Spelling is if you don't know how to spell that, you have to look it up, I guess. And then the nonprofit, where we do all the classes and international exchanges and concerts, most of which are free and all ages, is www.kkworldorchestra.org. But that's the best way to find out what's coming up in terms of any of those programs or concerts or school programs that we're doing or things of that nature. Things that we're doing regularly throughout the Northwest are concerts, most of which are free and open to the public and all ages, always with different guest artists from around the Pacific Northwest, or headlining performers, or sometimes international artists. And then also the classes that we're doing, which are open to all ages. And we have those. There's scholarships available for people that want to participate. Then there's the international exchanges themselves, and then the school programs that we're working. Right now, it's mostly within the Tacoma Public School District, but hopefully we can branch out as time goes on. So,
Fantastic. Thank you very much for doing this.
yeah, thank you for having me.